What's poppin', everybody? Hello and welcome to Popcorn Culture. My name is Ben Carlin and I am your one true host. Here with me today is my brother Jay, who will be in every episode.
Oh boy, I feel like there is some update to be had on the true host front to be had in a second. But let me first ask you, before we forget, for a corny joke.
Hey, look at you.
Yeah.
Look at you remembering stuff.
I'm remembering. I'm just the other guy here, whatever.
The other host does have to have, their responsibilities, and you prompting me to deliver a good corny joke.
That's right.
That's one of them.
Let's just get on with it, Ben.
Okay. Let's see here. Oh, I had so many that I like today. How many apples grow on a tree?
How many apples grow on? This is not like a bushel. I don't know how many apples grow on a tree.
All of them.
That's more like a riddle than a joke, I feel like. That's one of those, clever questions you get when you're in elementary school, like, what side of a chicken do the feathers grow on? The outside.
So the other one is, why couldn't the bicycle stand up by itself?
It had no leg?
Close.
Yeah.
It was too tired.
Oh, too tired. I get it. That's funny. Yeah. I said leg. I was thinking kickstand. I was like, yeah, bike legs.
Bike legs. Yeah, kickstands are the further you get into biking, when I was a kid, I thought a kickstand was neat. You know, that was a cool accessory. Yeah, that your bike might have. When you get into the world of cycling,
right?
Serious. Nobody would ever have a kickstand on their bike. The entire objective of all bicycles at some point in time is to make them as light as humanly possible, and the idea of unnecessarily applying weight would be so counter.
True. I would argue that as a kid, a kickstand is really useful because you're often parking it in places just around, and it's preferable to having your child throw their bike on the ground.
Maybe that's really what the invention of kickstands was for. Because when I was a kid, I had no issue. I even remember, I feel like I would have muscle memory for the idea of rolling up, stepping off my bike as I leaned it over, and just leaving it on its side.
Yeah.
And then walking away.
No problem. I feel like our dad must have been more savvy to the fact that kickstands on adult bikes are not cool and not necessary and frowned upon. So I don't think, I don't recall ever having a kickstand on any bike I ever owned.
I did eventually.
Oh, you did?
I did eventually, yeah. But I was like little Mr. Accessory.
You were an accessory, just junkie.
I was. It was just
Yes.
it was one of these things. I remember I gave a speech to my 5th grade class on my mountain bike, which looking back on it probably made me the most despised kid in the class.
Look how great my mountain bike is.
My Gary Fisher mountain bike.
Bell, probably not.
No, yeah, none of those things. But it had a lizard skin, which is this piece of neoprene, Velcro that goes over around where the chain might rub up against the frame. And I had that.
So you protected the frame from the chain.
And a kickstand. And climbing bars on the side for all that hardcore climbing I was doing.
As a child.
The Willis's across the street driveway.
Right. Yes. Wow. And I feel like your scooter had a bunch of aftermarket things. Did you have light up wheels and a wheelie bar?
So yours had a wheelie bar, but yours came, I feel factory with a wheelie bar.
I think mine had, I don't want to brag, my Razor scooter had shocks.
It did.
Which is to say, it had, I feel like, what looked like springs on it.
I think that's exactly, it's just the frame in the shape of springs.
Yeah, this was not offering you any smoother a ride.
Right. I feel like we've talked about this maybe when I sold all my Pokemon cards.
Yeah.
I bought my first ever Razor scooter, but it was all red, and by the time I was done with it, I had light up wheels, I had the wheelie bar, I had a custom grip tape, changed the handle grips to
custom
green.
grip tape on your scooter.
It was the best because the Razor scooters had this long oval that you could stand on for your grip tape. I got the one that covered the whole thing, so you were grippy any which way you were standing on it.
You could rip a trick from anywhere on that stand pad.
I could bunny hop, man. I could clear a curve.
I think nothing made me feel cooler than being able to do bunny hops and jumps on my scooter. Oh look, because you just watch a bunch of TV and extreme sports and stuff.
Yeah.
And the ability to be
extremely goofy movie. I know what you're saying.
Right. And so the ability to be airborne on roller skates or a skateboard or a bike seemed like so epic.
It did.
That was the height. If you could be on this thing but off the ground, my goodness. But you know what's really easy to do it on? A scooter.
Yeah.
Because a scooter, your hands remain on.
Yes, you get to hold the
right.
thing as you leap into the air.
But
the glorious 4 to 7 inches.
I know, it felt so cool. I felt like I could, and who knows? I felt like I could get some pretty solid distance, on my scooter.
That's how it felt. Although I have no idea. I feel like scooters, even in the world of extreme sports, it seems like they maybe made a bit of a comeback. I've seen more people around my neighborhood still cruising on the old razors.
Oh, there are so many scooters in my neighborhood.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You do live in a pretty suburban neighborhood.
I live in a pretty suburban neighborhood. There are kids on all varieties of scooters, some of which have 2 wheels in the front, 1 in the back. I'm not a fan of that one.
No, yeah.
No,
Who would be?
Yeah. Some of them, I saw a little girl yesterday on a motorized Razor scooter. I think it was called the Razor 3600. I'm just quoting it. But it had, she was standing on it and just like revving it up, just zipping around.
Can we get one?
I don't know.
Probably. Maybe.
They're available for purchase, certainly.
I'm aware of that much.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Although I've been riding my boosted board around the neighborhood.
Yeah? How's that
recently.
going?
Well, let me tell you, it turns a lot of heads.
I bet that it does.
People are like, wait a minute, what's that? That's cool. Like, that you can tell, but, I don't want to, stop.
Do any of them ask where your parents live?
No.
Okay,
no.
that's good.
Some of them have recognized me after the fact and been like, oh, not on your skateboard today? And I'm like, no, not right now. But
okay,
yeah, some of the children recognize, of course, immediately what it is.
Right, yeah. They watch Casey Neistat.
Yeah, probably not. But as ever, I can never tell if people can tell that it's motorized. Like, certainly it makes the high pitched weeing sound.
Right.
But there's always part of me that just wonders if they're watching you go and they're like, man, I never realized how effective and fast skateboards could move.
Oh my gosh. Well, I remember, and I don't even know if this was to what extent this was a thing or not, but we had season tickets for Virginia Tech football games.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I ever saw somebody on a one wheel.
Yeah.
And they were like, it was a relatively flat parking lot, but slightly inclined. And I remember this guy comes by me and he's rolling so quietly and he's just going uphill on it. I'm like,
right.
Is there some type of weird physics thing that the engineering department here, made this, they use a single go-kart wheel and they attach it to these things. And if you balance it just right, it can actually roll uphill. My mind's going into this complex arena of physics.
Right.
Which is of course not possible. But that in my mind, it was surely that's it. There's no way there's a motor inside of that wheel.
That's the thing. I've always wondered, because we used to ride our boosted boards, from our office to downtown to get lunch sometimes. And, when you're just riding next to people on flat ground.
Right.
If it was just me and I had no idea that motorized skateboards existed, I would probably stare at that person and be like, man, there must be some cool form you can do on a skateboard that propels it sort of endlessly.
Yeah.
That doesn't involve you taking your feet off of it. That's where I think I would jump first rather than, it's got a motor.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you completely. And I've even actually had this. There's a guy in my neighborhood who he is on a standard skateboard as far as I'm aware.
Okay.
But his dog will run out in front of him and literally drag him on his skateboard, like around corners through all the stuff. And every time this kid goes by, I'm like, I feel like I try to get every single dog we've ever had to drag me on a device in a way that was going to be Balto or something, sled dog.
Togo, I believe is who you mean.
Togo, is it the, okay, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. But this guy does it. And it's not that one time you saw him do it and he's a teenager who wanted to see if his dog could do this.
Right.
It's every day.
This happens.
Right. And so maybe it's a powered skateboard and I'm not realizing it, but it looks like a regular skateboard and his dog just takes him everywhere.
That's interesting.
It is.
It seems like going down hills would be a problem.
It does feel that way.
Yeah.
But maybe he's got it figured out. Maybe he's got it sorted.
I don't know.
I don't know either. You want to know the other thing about, speaking of childhood means of locomotion? Is that the right way to say that?
That works. People will know what you mean.
Okay. The baseball card in the bike spokes thing with the clothespin.
So dumb.
Oh, I was always so disappointed with my results on it. It takes very little bicycle riding before that baseball card is so flimsy that it no longer makes the desired noise.
Yeah.
And the clothespin, not very strong.
Yeah.
Like, clothespins are rather weak devices.
The desired noise, which is again just more annoying.
Right, yeah.
What is it supposed to look like? You're pedaling around a motorcycle?
Like, people can see you pedaling. Who are you fooling?
I never did that. I was like, it was such a thing in so many cartoons, I feel like, that,
Yes.
that people would, the characters in the shows would put like a baseball card in there and ride around like it was the coolest thing. Which when I think back on it, I feel like they put like rare baseball cards, which is not a real thing because it was a cartoon, so there's
sure.
But it'd be like, oh, this is my favorite baseball player. I'm gonna put him in there. And I'm like, no, why would you put him?
No,
you're gonna ruin it.
Don't put him in there.
Come on.
It's gonna be so messed up.
Crazy.
It always was. It always was.
Anyway, what else are we talking about today?
But we have a lot going on. Okay, so one thing I want to check up on you on. You're currently walking 10,000 steps a day, correct? What's your current count?
Oh, current count. I'm behind today. Presently, as I check my watch, I'm at 3,800 steps, and it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Man,
so
you've been doing too much boosted boarding.
I have not done any boosted boarding today. I thought I was going to be getting ahead a little because I was playing with Luke today in the basement, and I was just sort of like running little laps back and forth.
Right.
Which he eventually was just like, run! And he was running with me. And I was like, man, this was good. I got in a bunch of steps nice and early when I otherwise would have definitely just been sitting. But since then, not doing good. I'm gonna have to go on quite a walk this evening.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
That's the tricky thing, is that if you really need to be on it early.
Right. Okay, so this I feel like was somewhat spawned by the Markiplier video where he walked 100,000 steps, or
Right.
attempted to.
He attempted to.
I think basically in his home. Was that part of it, or was he allowed to go other places?
Oh yeah, he could go wherever he wanted. I think he just had an idea one night and was like, I'm gonna wake up tomorrow and do this.
In his perfect voice.
Yes. Amazing voice, Markiplier. If you're listening, if you're a little colonel, I doubt it, but hey, what's up? We'd love to work together.
Big fan.
Big fan. Very cool. But so yeah, I watched that video the other day where he was trying to walk 100,000 steps. And apparently that's like a thing other people tried to do. It's like a challenge that's on YouTube or whatever. And I saw it and I was like, I feel like I could do this. I could do 100,000 steps. Certainly. Certainly I could, given a little bit of planning. How hard could it be? Because in my mind, I was like, you always hear the phrase 10,000 steps thrown around.
Yes.
Right. And so I think maybe the way people throw it around is that that's the number you should strive for every day. But in my mind, it's just become so mixed in with all the other facts about steps and pedometers that it was like, that's about the average number of steps people walk a day is 10,000.
Sure.
That was my mind. In my mind, headcanon.
Okay, headcanon, love it.
Not really accurate. But it's closer to about 5,000 is about where is my regular average, just looking back at the history on my phone.
So that's about what you would do. So 5,000 steps is about what you would do in your like process of getting up in the morning, brushing your teeth, walking out to the mailbox, like coming to the office, that type of thing.
Right, just regular walking around sort of stuff. But in my mind, I was like, yeah, I'm probably already getting about 10,000 to begin with.
Right.
Whatever. And that's without even trying. So if I put in a little bit of effort, it'd probably be pretty easy to get to like 20,000.
Sure.
No issue. And maybe even 30 with some like dedicated effort.
Right. Like maybe go on a run that day.
Yeah, no problem. And if I only had to like triple that effort, yes, obviously very difficult. But for a single day, I could do it.
Yeah.
I could do it.
How hard could it be?
Like, it seems like 10,000 steps in a single day seems so feasible that even though you're multiplying it by 10, I was like, I could do this.
That's not
I could
bad.
Absolutely do it.
How many miles would be 100,000 steps?
It's about 50.
50?
It's about 50.
That's like 20 more than I was expecting you to say.
Yeah. Oh, agreed. Same. I was like, yeah, what's it gonna be like? A lot? Like 20 miles? 25 miles?
So you could run a marathon and still not hit this goal.
Yeah, you almost have to double marathon it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so there's a lot of obstacles. So not only, I think I still would have tried it just to see how far I could get in a single day.
Yeah.
But there's a bunch of weird obstacles you have to contend with. Well, that I'm contending with at the moment. Number one is that we have 3 kids under the age of 3. So
Bravo.
So, that's a lot of work. But that means this would be clearly an all-day endeavor.
Oh, yeah,
that
for
you're going to
sure.
be doing. So I would be unavailable to assist with said children all day.
Right.
Right? That's problem number one. Problem number two is that if you just want to break down, put it into like a more impossible sounding terms, there are, I think, like 86,000 seconds in a day.
So not even enough seconds.
There's not there. Yeah, you'd be taking.
Does that count sleeping?
Yeah, that's 24 hours.
So sleeping is okay. So assuming you sleep during this 24-hour span,
Yeah.
you still don't have enough seconds per steps in a day.
Assuming you don't sleep.
Right.
You don't have enough seconds per steps. So you're only gonna be awake. I mean, even if you stay awake extra,
Right.
you're probably not gonna be awake for the full 24 hours.
Probably not.
On top of that, the sleep I would be getting, not that great right now.
Yeah, that adds up.
Yeah.
2 twins.
Because of yes, 2 twins. And then on top of that is not just that you'd be out of commission for the first day, but almost certainly you're going to be out of commission the following day, if not also the next day.
Right.
Having
Yeah,
effectively-
this is going to affect like half of your week.
Right. So it felt, even though I'm pretty sure I could do it.
Could you?
Yeah. You don't think I could off the couch 100,000 steps?
All I can think about is that, and this is the only measure that I have of extraordinary daily walking, because I pay attention to it when I go, is when I go to Disney, I feel like I usually put down like 22,000 steps in a day, and my feet are destroyed.
Yes, accurate.
I would say that the greatest challenges of going to Disney are the heat and the foot pain.
Heat in the feet.
Heat and feet.
Heat in the feet.
And so it's like if
Classic hot foot problem.
yeah, right? It's like, so if I could find a way to have neither of those things be a problem, Disney World is the perfect place.
Right. So it's interesting you brought up Disney World because I had to revive my Apple Watch so that I could do this because I wanted to be able to, at a glance, check my step count.
Yeah, for sure.
And I always hear about people like fill your rings or whatever. Mm-hmm. It felt so obvious to me that one of the rings was steps, but it's not. Which
Really?
is so annoying to me. Not only is it not, but even though your Apple Watch will track your steps as part of the health activity function of it, there's no way for it to display the steps to you at a glance. You have to like click the rings, scroll down, and check.
So what are you doing right now?
So I had to install a third-party pedometer, which then you can add as I don't know why they chose this word, a complication.
You're kidding
to
me.
your screen. So on the bottom, I've got my pedometer app displaying my steps. But even then, it doesn't update like in super real time. Like if I let it go long enough, it will eventually sync up again, but it's not like every 10 seconds it's refreshing or something.
Oh, I see.
If I really want an accurate thing, I have to open it, scroll to the app on the phone, and then give it a tap, and it'll give me my official number, which right now, 3,889. So
this is super making me want to get an Apple Watch specifically so I can do this kind of step counting.
Yeah. Well, I would recommend if you specifically want to do step counting, I wouldn't go straight for the Apple Watch.
Oh, there are other ways.
I'd probably get like
a Fitbit,
or a Fuel Band, or just a straight up pedometer.
Sure.
Yeah.
I could see where that would have its merits.
Yeah. The fact I happen to already own the Apple Watch, and I will tell you, even just getting it to the point, it was so frustrating getting here because I was like, okay, once I get it all updated, I'll be able to just check my steps at a glance. But just getting it to that point was so frustrating because I don't typically wear my Apple Watch very much.
Sure.
And so I had to revive it, basically. And I had this whole problem where, one, of course, you have to install a bazillion updates, and that takes forever, and I had to charge it all the way back up to 100, which took a while. And then it turns out I'd gotten a new phone, so the watch was paired with the thing that doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
And that I had to like erase all the data and get it back. It took like 5 hours just to get to the point where I realized it wouldn't be able to tell me my steps at a glance.
Oh,
which I then had to solve third party wise.
This sounds like such a classic you problem. I can't even believe it. Like, I feel like you always go through these things where it's like, so I solved that problem, then I solved that problem, then I solved that problem, and it turns out it doesn't work anyway.
Yeah. I'm going through a lot of these at the moment. I think
that this is maybe a thing with all of us just being at home, and tell me if you think maybe this is possible, but like, because you're interacting with stuff at home so much more because you're always home, more stuff is inclined to either break or become problematic because it is literally being used more often.
I think you've got half of the right answer.
Half of the right answer. Okay, go ahead.
I think when you're not using stuff, it falls into disrepair, but because we're at home, you're discovering the disrepair on everything at the same time.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. Yeah, because that's been, I've actually had this problem across the board. Like, for the most part, for one, I've had a bunch of stuff that just feels like it's consistently, not really like breaking in a major way, but like I keep having to go and like tweak something or whatever. And I think part of it is because I'm just like moving about so much more and, you know, interacting with the home and stuff. But the other thing is I feel like I've noticed so many more things about my house that just annoy me.
Oh no.
Where it's like, normally I love my house.
Yeah.
I've had this situation where like I keep walking into rooms and there's like a little bit of like dust on the baseboards and I'm like, that dust. You know what? I just want to go in and rip out the baseboards and replace the baseboards because of that dust. You know, it's like that's literally these conclusions that I keep coming to because one, I have a surplus of time, and two, I have an increased surplus in frustration with dust.
Oh, I see.
So it's like I'll see it and I'm just like, now's the day.
This is it.
The only way to solve
down.
this is to go to the home store and buy like 457 feet of baseboard,
right,
and a pry bar
and a nail gun
and all the stuff. Got to be prepared, and take everything apart and redo all the baseboards so that the dust will go away.
Yeah, like it just won't accumulate again.
It won't. It's like I don't understand why to me that feels like a more okay solution than just like cleaning the baseboards.
Right.
But it's like, no, they're beyond repair. They cannot be cleaned.
Dude, I 100% know what you mean. It's weird how certain things will jump out at you as the thing you should work on. Like my house, I mean, complete disaster zone at the moment, which is just how how it is.
Twins.
Just how it is when you have a 2-year-old and then newborns and they're spitting up on everything.
Right.
And in the meantime, your 2-year-old is getting 100 toys out and pulling every book off the shelf. And he'll like flip through them and read them, but he doesn't put it back. And then it's on the floor and whatever. But I'll like look at like the windowsill and be like, there's a lot of dust on that windowsill. It's like the whole house is a disaster. But I'm like, I'm gonna wiping that up right now. This I can fix. It's like I have control over this. I can get rid of this dust permanently.
Why is that such a thing? Like, I feel like this manifests in the strangest of ways, but when people don't have control over something, they have to find something to have control over.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is probably one of those things that I'm sure comes up in counseling all the time, where like you become a control freak over something because of a lack of control somewhere else, right?
Right.
That's
yeah,
an understandable
that's
thing.
how it is. You want control over something.
Right. Yeah. And so for you, it's the dust.
I mean, to a degree, I will try and pick up certain things, yeah. But I will also, like you said, sometimes it seems more reasonable to just like, I'm just gonna buy all these baseboards.
Oh, and just like completely replace it?
Yeah. It's like, I've got a lawnmower right now, which does not function.
Yeah.
And you're right, like probably repairing the lawnmower, much cheaper option in my mind. It's like, just be way easier, just go buy a new lawnmower.
Just get a lawnmower. Then I don't have to deal with this one that doesn't work.
Doesn't work.
Right.
But, you know, repairing a lawnmower, it's like, I don't even know where you go to repair a lawnmower. And there's this quarantine, and I don't know am I allowed to go take it? It feels like it's going to take forever.
It does.
You know?
I agree with you. I think that because of all, like, everything that's going on and basically being, you know, pretty closed in, it does pose interesting problems. And that's the same thing with me and my baseboards. It's like, you know, it's like, if only I could go and buy new baseboards.
Right.
It's kind of like part of where my mind circulates around. It's like, oh, that would be so perfect. Like, yeah. I could solve it forever. But my issue with that is right now I have like a home gym, because part of the thing you can't do during all this, of course, is go to the gym.
Right.
And so I have a home gym, and it's been like this thing that like I sort of half-heartedly put together in my attic of all places. Like I built like my rock wall so I can like do rock climbing up there and stuff. And
do you use that?
Every once in a while, yeah. Mostly I have a pull-up bar up there that I do frequently use.
Right. It seems like if you built your own rock wall, you probably just get all the routes down pretty quick.
Yeah, though I think really what I found very quickly is that I'm not very good at setting routes.
Oh, okay.
And so it's like I feel like whenever I'm trying to set them, I'm trying to set them so that I know I can do it, and then it doesn't feel like that much of a challenge because you know that you can do it. So like in rock climbing, basically, this was a big thing the first time I ever went rock climbing, actually, is I was convinced that when I got there, I was like, I kind of just want to play on the wall. Like I don't really want to like go and do the color coded, like, you know, the V1 and climb like the red route all the way to the top. I was like, I just want to mess around. And then like within being at the gym for like 13 minutes, it's like, oh no, I want to try this V0 and this V1. And that becomes everything.
Yeah, that is how it works. I can only imagine, the struggle of trying to set your own routes because, of course, you want to set it so that you can do it. And then if you can't do it, you're probably just like, I'd probably just set a bad route. I just set an impossible route. It's not me.
It's not doable. It is not doable.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you need someone better than you setting the route so that you can go and have faith that the route will work. But anyway, so up there, I have like all of my like weightlifting stuff and all these weights, and it's like okay-ishly set up. Like I would not go quite so far as to say I have like a home gym, but I have a way to exercise at home if I really wanted to. So the first few days of quarantine, I went up there and I was like, okay, like I'm gonna do squats, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. And I was like, I hate this. I hate working out up here. It's like there are no windows and it's dark and there's only 2 light bulbs and it's not that fun. And
you described our actual gym also, by the way.
That is true. Our actual gym is in a basement where there are no windows.
Yeah.
And there are like 8 light bulbs. So that's been like this stupid hang up I've been having where I have this spot outside of my house, like next to, like in between my driveway and my home. And it's this like 12 by 12 square. And for the past like 2 years, I've been like, I'm going to build an outdoor gym out there. That's what I'm going to do. And what I've really needed to do is like pour concrete pads so I have like a space to do it. And I'm not like weightlifting on grass and it's nice and even and all that. But I'm like so transfixed right now on this idea of going out there and building this home gym that it's like, well, I can't exercise until I've built my outdoor home gym, which involves pouring a concrete pad, which I've never done before. So then of course I'm like, okay, so I'm like calculating how many bags of concrete I'm going to have delivered. I'm trying to figure out how to get a concrete mixer there so I can be mixing concrete and doing all this stuff. And I think really what's happening is not that I want an outdoor gym so much as I'm like infatuated with being interested in solving the problem of how to have a gym that I want to work out in.
Right.
And so when it really comes down to it, like I am full aware that I'm conning myself into being interested in something that I can just be excited about.
Right.
Which is a weird problem that I think is completely a like byproduct of the current climate.
Right.
Like you're stuck at home, you can't go anywhere, you have no resources to do that you can go and even get to do new things.
Right.
So you're constantly just doing this weird reinvention of your space.
Right. Oh, this is probably the problem with working out too, is that it's going to be a lot of effort to go work out.
Right.
And because like when you go to the gym or you have like a trainer or something, there's a certain obligation to your membership. Like, oh, I'm paying for it, so I better go work out.
Yeah.
Or I'm paying this guy to help me, so I should do what he says. And it's not all self-motivation. But right now, that's where you're at.
Yeah.
You have all of the means, but it's just going to be hard.
Yeah.
And not only that, you have to do it in a 2 light bulb attic where there's no airflow or anything. It's like, it's just gonna be terrible. So it's like you just hype yourself into, like, you come up with every excuse to why you just shouldn't do it. But then you're also upset that you're not working out, but you're like, well, I can't though, because
because exactly, that problem.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. And it's so funny too, because I would say under normal circumstances, like prior to, what's been going on, the big commodity that I always would talk about is like time. It's like, like that is like the biggest thing. I wish I had more time to spend with friends, to, go on date nights with Allie, to, like master new hobbies, to do this, that, and the other. And now it's like the exact opposite, where it's like, I have so much time.
And you're not doing anything.
And I'm not doing anything. Like I'm not.
I know exactly this problem. So when I graduated college, before I got like my first full-time job, there was probably like a 5-month span there where I was just sort of living at home.
Right.
Like at that time, I had started doing YouTube. I had like the Jonkerlin channel, the first one.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of fun with it in college, and where it was like I would do it in my spare time, and I would always think about doing it like, okay, I need to finish this stuff so I can go work on that.
Right.
But then I found myself just living at our parents' alone all day with endless time, and it was like, it feels kind of irresponsible to be working on this.
Yeah.
It was
exactly.
like, I should be trying to get a real job. I shouldn't be putting all my eggs in this basket of the thing I want to do, because it's not as realistic. It was like once I had the free time to do it, it was like, I don't know if I should be doing this.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like there's just so much to be said for this, like for scarcity. I don't know why, but like for me, even I feel like whenever I'm like looking for something, I always like to find like rare things.
Yeah.
And it's like I just bought my second pair of like rare sneakers.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know.
Look
Pretty
at
cool.
you.
I know. Found a great deal on eBay. I was very excited. I'm not wearing them right now. I'm afraid to because they're white.
Are you wearing your first pair of rare sneakers?
I am wearing my first pair of rare sneakers.
Yeah. Can you describe them for the audience?
I can absolutely do that. Yeah,
Okay.
they're the Nike Dunk SB sneakers.
Okay.
And they're the burnished leather is what this particular like color pattern is called. I'm pretty sure these came out like in 2011, and I saw them on like a Nike ad or something somewhere along the way, and I was like, I want that. Like it's a pair of Nikes where they're completely leather, which I've always liked leather a lot. I feel like a lot of like stuff in my house is leather, and it took me until just here recently to learn that they were like, you know, part of this sneakerhead community where like they were released. All of them were bought. You know, like you would never go to a store to buy these sneakers. Like they were
Right.
not on the shelves
Ever.
at Foot Locker or something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. So there are a limited number of them, which means that, you know, since 2011, as I start hunting for them, you know, in the modern time, like finding a pair in your size, let alone at a reasonable price, is almost impossible. It's
Right.
like there can literally be like less than 5 of these left, you know, like where
Right.
people haven't either put them so in their collection where they are left to be untouched
Is
as
it-
part of a collection.
Shoes are so weird in that way that people collect them
Oh yeah.
to not, that like they purchase them not to wear them.
I know. Well, and that was one of the things when I started like kind of getting, you know, like sucked into this idea. I was like, nope. If I get them, I'm going to wear them, and it's going to like, and the thing is, they do legitimately bring me like joy,
Right.
Which I think is kind of like the big question that as time goes on, I always ask myself if I'm spending money on something is like, you know, does it make me happy?
Yeah.
And every single time I put these on, or like half the time, I probably have 50 pictures of them in my phone where like I took them off the night before and then came downstairs the next morning and all the sunlight was like washing in. I'm like, man, those are such cool. Like, I'm going to take a picture of them. So like I take pictures of my shoes.
Do you have an Instagram page for your shoes?
No, I do not have an Instagram
No.
page for my shoes.
Yet?
Currently, I only have 2 pairs of what I would consider quote unquote rare shoes.
So it'd just be a picture of those same shoes.
Same shoes over and
Over
over and
and
over
over.
again. It's getting slightly more worn out. Like as
Right.
time goes on,
Yeah.
it's like, this is what they looked like new.
You're like the worst shoe collector because you just use them.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Eventually, like they will become so worn out that they no longer, you know, like I will probably get to the point where it's like, nah, I don't really want to wear those anymore. Like they are too worn out.
Man, I find that is largely that's a weird thing as an adult with your shoes. When you're a kid, you only have one pair of shoes.
Yeah.
Or that's how, I don't know what your experience was, listener, but at our house it was like, yeah, these are your shoes. You have one pair of shoes and you wear them to everything.
Everything.
Yeah. I mean, you wear the same pair of shoes to school every day. And it's very obvious. And doing this, they get worn out pretty quickly.
Oh, yeah.
And children are growing so fast anyway that they constantly need new shoes because
Right.
of sizes. But it was like the only reason, but that was the reason you'd outgrow the shoes or you'd use them to their fullest extent because that was the only shoes you wore and you wore them everywhere.
Right.
But as an adult, I would say you're not really running around in the same way that you were running around as a kid.
Right. It's so true. Like you're not going out and like sprinting or playing pickup games or you know, powering your Razor scooter.
Right. And if you are, you probably have specific shoes you're wearing for like activity.
Yeah.
But
like, the number of activity-based shoes I have is many.
Yes, right. But, I'm just wearing a pair of Toms right now and it feels like it could take me a decade to wear them out.
Oh, sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know I'm ever going to decide these are just like when these are done and I just get rid of them.
Right.
But so every pair of shoes, the problem is that I have a lot of pairs of shoes.
That's because shoes are fun.
Shoes are fun. I feel like you could be dressed really in like a bunch of really cool clothes, and if you're wearing the wrong shoes, forget it. The whole outfit, done.
Totally done.
Yeah.
And here's the thing too. This is advice I've given before, but if you want to know the best way to like make someone's day, the secret is to be like, love your shoes.
Love your shoes.
Because shoes are like, people use them as such an extension of their personality. I feel like even if you don't think you are, like, I feel like it, for some reason, there's such a personal choice.
It's because you're gonna have to wear them more often. Like even as an adult, like if you're a kid, you're wearing the same pair of shoes every day or whatever. As an adult, you're probably not wearing the exact same pair of shoes every single day, but you're probably only rotating in about 3 or 4.
Right.
So you are still going to be wearing that pair a lot,
Right.
which is something you have to take into consideration when you're buying it.
Right.
Yes.
Yep.
And so that it is an extension because you're making a semi more, what's the word? Like permanent presentation of yourself than if you're wearing like a t-shirt where, I wore that t-shirt one day. No big deal.
Right. Like you have many more t-shirts per the category of clothing that are supposed to cover your upper torso than you do things that are supposed to cover your feet.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Interestingly, actually, Allie and I talk about this all the time because when we first started talking, I was still doing all of my aquarium stuff full time.
Oh.
And so at that point, like where I was career-wise, I was literally like doing, I was always wearing like boots, like not quite like work boots, but like hiking boots because they were waterproof. So like for a lot of the stuff that I did, it was sort of like, they both protected my feet from like, dropping a 2x4.
Right.
But like easy enough to go around and move around a lot in and stuff like that. And the pants that I wore were pants that had like a lifetime warranty because they were like so industrially made.
Right.
And I would put them through the ringer. So Hallie and I talk about this all the time. But when we first started hanging out, very frequently when she was seeing me, it was like before or after work. And so I was always wearing these beat to heck pants and boots. Like the boots had holes visibly in them. Like
she could see your feet.
Yeah, bursting at the seams. Like they were so destroyed. And it was one of these things I never really thought about because at the time I just I wore it every day. It was just exactly how I knew that I presented myself to the world. So I was just sort of like, this is sort of who I am. And it's only been in the past like couple of months that she revealed to me that her first impression of me is that I was like a good old boy. Like she totally thought that, which is pretty normal for our area, like, to be, to have potentially grown up, like working on a farm or,
right.
Potentially more rural areas. And I think that was very much what her perception of who I was. Like,
little did she know you were going to steal her Harry Potter fandom.
She had no idea. She had no idea. I was going to swoop in and take it right from her.
This farm boy, he probably has only even heard of Harry Plopper or whatever.
That Harry Potter. Yeah. No, I think I think it was because we were talking about shoes though, is the amount at which her initial impression was me, this guy who like just took these boots and wore them until they were like dissolving, before your eyes, to being this guy who's like carefully scouring like all of the websites, including like Poshmark, where she sells tons of like dresses and stuff like that, for, rare shoes.
Rare shoes. Look at you. Look what you've become.
I know. It's really been an evolution.
Yeah, no doubt.
And guys, now we take a brief pause for the first ever sponsor of Popcorn Culture.
Yes, and how fittingly that it is Vincero Watches.
Vincero Watches. Yeah, Vincero has been a super long time supporter of the YouTube channel, Super Carlin Brothers. We've done lots of work with them over there. They were very excited to work with us with Popcorn Culture now that we've got it up and running with episode 20. So guys, we want to tell you about the watches today because Vincero does this thing that solved a problem for me that with watches I've always had.
What was the problem?
The problem was I always wanted an expensive looking watch.
Yeah.
But I absolutely never wanted to spend expensive rates. Like I never wanted to buy like a Rolex.
Sure. Oh yeah.
So I think it was always one of these things where I really wanted to have that like that accessory as part of my, my outfit, my look.
I remember as a kid, we would go on these field trips, like with the class, to, like Washington DC or New York City. And part of the real excitement of going was that you were going to meet those guys on the street that sold the fake Rolexes.
Right.
And you're like, I'm going to have a really fancy looking watch, but I'm going to get it for like $10 and no one's going to be able to tell.
Yeah, exactly. The Folex.
That's right. Me, 5th grader in a Rolex. That's right.
There you go. So guys, Vincero is working with us right now. They're giving 15% off for Popcorn Culture listeners. Go to vincerowatches.com/popcorn. There is no promo code needed. And the watches are just truly spectacular. They're very reasonably priced. I mean, I wear one on my wrist every single day. And I would say the biggest thing that I love about it is the glass that they use is this like special glass so that it doesn't scratch. They never scratch.
Do you know what I really like about my Vincero watches is that I do not have to charge them or update them or anything like that, like I have had with my present watch problems.
There you go.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely perfect. Really gorgeous looking watches. There's a huge selection for both men and women. If you'd like to check it out, you can go to vincerowatches.com/popcorn for 15% off your entire order.
And now, back to the pop.
Okay, so one thing that I want to talk to you about today, because this comes up all the time, like I at least in my world of searching the internet, is this like people who police forums. So are you like a member of any forums, like where you go online and like everybody there is all into like Pokemon Go or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I know what forums are.
No, I know, but like, are you a part of one?
I have at times in my life been parts of one that I would check them regularly.
Okay.
And stuff. I know when Mario Kart came out on the Wii, I was big on the Mario Kart forums.
No
in
way.
College. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Anyway.
When I was in college, I was big into aquarium forums, and I would
Sure.
check out all those show-off threads where people be,
Righto.
displaying all their latest chalices and acropora. But one of the things that I feel like happens to me so frequently as an adult is I will be searching for the answer to like a question of something that I don't speak the language of how to, repair a computer thing, or like for like Diablo, I do a whole bunch of like, what's the best barbarian build? And then, you get on there. And so I've got like a lot of like former experience with forums, and I remember this behavior then, but I discover it all the time when I search a question that must be searchable enough that the search engine delivers a forum post as the top result. Does that make sense?
I know it totally makes sense. This happens to me all the time when I'm trying to find this exact thing. I feel like is what makes solving like IT issues or technology issues yourself impossible.
Oh, sure. Because like when you search like how to get my Canon XP870 printer to work,
right?
Like the search result that will come up is someone who asked about the Canon XP970, and
it could be about the same thing, but it's just like the answers will always be from people that are like, oh, have you tried resetting the drivers? You might have to go into the code, and it's like people are getting way too technical, way too fast. It's you know what I mean?
Right.
It's like,
because what you've done is you walked into a room of people who it's like all decided they all know what they're talking about.
Right.
Yeah. So there's something to be said for that, because if you're an active member of that forum, then you know what all of these words mean. Mm-hmm. Maybe.
But no, you don't, because if you knew all that stuff, you wouldn't have to ask the question.
Oh, well, that's
right.
fair.
This is the problem, is that the people asking the question are getting answers that are way too detailed, and they're not right. It's never the solve.
Oh, sure.
It's never the solve. It's always like, here's 1,000 technical problems or solutions for this thing that is actually just, have you tried restarting it and installing the new software? It's like,
right.
Yeah. It's like, oh, that worked.
Yeah.
Or whatever. It's like, maybe you should try installing these third-party things and do this and this and this and this. And it's like, oh my gosh.
Oh, there's nothing worse though than when you ask a question and then one person gives you like what feels like a pretty thoughtful answer, and then immediately below it somebody quote responds to it, and they're like, this guy has no idea what they're talking about. Never do this. And you're like, man, I was really on board with that guy's plan.
Right.
Now I don't know. Like, he seemed like he knew what he was talking about, but then this guy's telling me that other dude didn't know what he was talking about. So who do I believe?
Right.
This is getting a little awkward.
I'm gonna try the first thing.
Let's see what happens.
Let's see.
But so the thing that I've run into is that very frequently I will search a question. The algorithm gods have made it so that this forum post was the top response, and almost always I feel like this happens nearly without fail. And maybe this almost answers your question too. But there's a person who will come on who will have asked perfectly, like I couldn't even think of how to phrase the question, and they did it just right. It's like,
yeah,
me and you. We're together in this. Like, I know that's what I'm dealing with too. You did such a good job phrasing it. And certainly other people have thought so too, because the algorithm gods made this be the top result, which means that I'm here.
Yeah.
And then the very first response to it is like, it's going to be something along the lines of someone being like, this actually belongs in our Uber Smiter guide thread. If you had just searched over there, you would have found the answer to the question.
Oh.
And it's like, yeah, but friend, friend who's directing people where to go, this guy's question apparently is how everybody else was phrasing it. And this is where everybody else ended up. And so it's like, maybe he should have posted it there per like the forum's organizational like guidelines and stuff, but we're all here. So can somebody just answer the question here?
Right.
Because this is where we've ended up. And that's the thing, is that chances are the person who asked the question was so new to the forum that they don't understand what the organizational guidelines.
They didn't read all the post-its,
all the
stickies on
who reads the stickies?
I know, right? You should.
Yeah, I mean, it's useful information. And I totally understand. Like, I think this is one of those things where if you're inside of that group and you see somebody who's posting something, it's so glaringly wrong if you've spent an enormous amount of time in that space.
The forum.
Like, and you understand how it works and it all comes together. But then for me, as someone who has absolutely no plan of joining this forum on how to lay concrete,
right?
You know, like I'm not going to sign up and give you my email address so I get emails from Concrete R Us, the forum. Like, you know, I don't want that. What I want is the answer to the question that the OP asked.
Right.
And now I'm left confuzzled.
Confuzzled.
Because so you're gonna have the one person being like, this is supposed to be in this other forum location, and then the next person's gonna give you a very thoughtful response, and then the next person's gonna quote tweet that person's response and be like, oh, this guy has no idea what he's talking about. And all that happens is I'm left confused, and the person who asked the original question got me. Like, they understood it.
Right.
Or they didn't understand it in the same way that I didn't understand it.
Exactly. Yes.
I know
exactly. Yeah. This forum police. That is. I guess if you're like a long-term member of said forum, you probably appreciate this sort of thing.
Right.
But gosh, if you're the person who's new or you just want to know the answer, or sometimes even it's like, oh, if you'd searched over here, you would have found the answer. It's like, yeah, maybe. Sometimes if you go and like actually search, even if you are an active member and you are like, oh, sorry, you're right, I should have checked there. Like, good luck finding it anyway.
Oh, forum search sucks.
Yes, forum search not good.
And chances are, what you're gonna find is a whole bunch of other threads that got left unanswered because it was everybody else asking the question that apparently has been answered somewhere.
Right, exactly. It's like, yeah, if you looked over here, that question's already been answered, but it's also been asked 100 times. Good luck finding the one with the correct answer.
Right. Yeah. Oh, man. Forums can be so incredibly useful, and I do think that hobbies are, they get so much development from that collaboration from people who are that into it. Mm-hmm. Like, I can't even tell you the number of things that I know about aquariums that I only know because of the amount of time I've spent in the Reef to Reef forum.
Of course.
But still, when you're an outsider and you feel like these people all know what they're talking about. The other thing is that I'm always so appreciative that somebody took the time to sign up for Concrete R Us, specifically to post their first ever post, which was that post. And then, like, you have to imagine how it would feel like showing up to your first day of school and somebody, like, being mean to you right away, which is what it must feel like to, like, ask a completely honest and innocent question and then have somebody show up and be like, this is in the wrong spot. It's like, oh, man, I really have not put my best foot forward.
Really tried, guys.
Now I have to know from everybody out there, all the little kernels listening, what is your experience like with forums? Because for one, I would be curious to know what forums people are particularly into. Like, I was into like Reef to Reef, which is probably the biggest aquarium-based forum that I'm aware of. That and Reef Central, but I feel like Reef Central's kind of gone down. You know, Reef to Reef really they pulled it up.
They pulled it up, viewing all the aquarium forums out there.
They have great, right? Yeah, that's what the pop turned into, is a review of Reef aquarium forums.
That's right.
But no, I want to know, what forums are you a part of, and what is your stance on this? Because I could also see people who are much more organized, like this really grating them that people did post something in the area where it's not like supposed to be.
Do you know the other, I think, common forum pattern perhaps is the better word, is where people will post something, like maybe they're posting their aquarium build and like asking for critiques.
Yes.
Is that a thing?
Oh yeah, for sure.
People will post on forums asking for critiques or advice, and no matter what the advice is, people will be like, well, actually, I do it this way because of this, so I don't think I'm going to do that.
Oh, right. Yeah. It's like you asked for critiques, and then people gave you critiques, and now you don't.
Yeah, and now you're getting really defensive.
Right.
Yeah. Like, I disagree, or whatever.
Yeah.
So, that I find is another common forum pitfall.
Oh, for sure.
People fall into.
The other thing is that, like, forum posts can just get hijacked so quickly, where people just, like, get into arguments with one another.
Oh, right.
And it's like,
you can't be like, well, I've got 13 responses to my question. This is amazing.
He's like, no.
It's just these two guys arguing.
Yeah.
Like, you're not even talking about concrete, man.
No, come on. It's like, oh man. No, on top of that, chances are if somebody posted helpful pictures, they posted helpful pictures like back in 2007 with like images that they dropped in from Photo Bucket. You remember that like webpage where you could upload photos?
Yeah, of course.
Right? Naturally.
You're going to link to it in your away message on Instant Messenger.
Check out my Photo Bucket.
Yeah.
But all the Photo Bucket links are like broken because people never continue their subscription. So it's like,
oh, I see.
They're like, this picture is what helped me really understand how to lay concrete, and it's like, this link is broken. It's like, no, the answer's right there.
Oh no.
If this guy had only continued his $1.99 for unlimited plan Photo Bucket account.
What concrete problems are you having that you've got so much? It sounds like you should sign up for the account.
Maybe I should.
Maybe you should.
It's like,
I want to see the sidewalk you're building or whatever. What are you building?
That's the
Your
thing.
gym?
My gym, yeah.
Your
because
gym.
it can't be an attic.
And all you're trying to pour is just a single flat square of concrete.
A single flat square of concrete.
It seems like this should be the most basic thing you could pour.
Doesn't it feel that way? Doesn't it feel... Okay, so there are so many different ways and thoughts and considerations. Like, some people just put their form right on the ground, right? They don't even dig the earth out from underneath.
Okay.
They're just filling in the space on top of flat earth.
Okay.
Right? But then other people, they excavate a little bit, and then they add gravel down below, and then they
so
put...
you can, like, tamper it down?
So you can tamper it down.
Yeah.
Yep. And then you can put rebar on top of that, which is
you got to put like the 2x4s on the sides so you get a nice flat.
That's the form. Yeah,
Oh,
that's the form. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So but like, some people like to like lube their 2x4s with like motor oil so that like it releases more easily.
Oh, I see.
Right. But like, do I do that or no? Because that guy apparently, according to this other guy, says he has no idea what he's talking about. And so then
that was the discrepancy. Is whether or not you should.
Whether or not you
rub motor oil on your 2x4s so it's easier to lift out of your freshly poured concrete.
Yes. These are my woes. I don't understand why you're laughing.
This is the real problem you're having. Oh man, yeah, you're like, how it's like if you were setting up, like, I don't know, it does feel like the sort of thing where you don't know when you're talking to you're so novice to the hobby that you don't know if you're talking
concrete laying.
It's concrete. That you don't know if you're talking to someone who is like really, really deep into the hobby.
Right.
This is like, and they're like trying to give you level 25 tips when what you really need is like concrete for dummies. You know?
What I need is just someone who I can ask basic questions to and give me basic answers. Like, like so many people will be like, oh, if you're doing like a 12x12 pad for a shed, you're going to need like a cubic yard. And I'm like, what? What's a cubic yard? And then there's like considerations like, how much do you think it would cost to have a cement truck pull up at your house?
Right.
To fill what you have no idea whether like is a 12x12 pad a big pad or a small pad?
Yeah, can you just buy that couple bags at Lowe's? Or are you calling a guy with a truck?
Right. So my conclusion so far is that it's not nearly enough. You would need like 10 cubic yards for a cement truck to show up.
Yeah.
I think.
Okay.
Which would cost not even that much money. I think it's like maybe, again here, I think I'm understanding correctly, like between $100 and $200.
I remember at our childhood home, we had a sandbox in the backyard.
Yeah.
And it feels like if I was an adult, if I was trying to fill up a sandbox for my kids, I'd just go buy some bags of sand. But if I recall, our dad would have a dump truck.
I think that is what he did.
And he would dump sand like, oh, okay.
Like a whole load of sand, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
and that's what I do for mulch. Like I have like a guy show up and he'll like dump a whole load of mulch in my driveway.
Yeah.
And then I'll just go and like wheelbarrow it around.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But so the thing is that now what I've ultimately determined is that one, I just need to get concrete bags because I don't have enough for a cement truck to pull up at my house. But then I need 71 80-pound bags.
You need what? That's how much concrete you need?
That's how much I need.
You need, 71 80-pound bags.
71 80-pound bags.
How how could you possibly need that much?
But that's the thing. That's what I thought too. I was like, well, I mean, like maybe 7, 8. Like,
this is so much. What are you building?
A 12 by 12 pad for my gym.
That seems like it's way too much. But it also seems like the kind of thing where if you mess it up, you're going to have a really heavy problem.
Like, it's so heavy.
What is 70 times 80?
506. No, 5,600.
560 is not right. Yeah, you're going to have a 2.5 ton problem.
Right. So
You better not mess up.
You know, you better not mess up. But so then my issue is that they won't deliver the concrete to my house because, I don't know, they don't. And on top of that, the payload of my truck, which is like, you know, the next thing you have to go figure out, like, what is the payload of a Toyota Tundra? Which is like how much weight it can carry in the truck bed.
Ben, you know what you actually need to do?
What?
Is you need to just hire someone else to come lay the concrete.
I know. I called someone yesterday.
Oh, there it is.
But
it is.
I haven't pulled the trigger on it yet because it feels like it's too expensive.
No, Ben, do it. Pull the trigger.
Pull the trigger.
Here's the thing. Okay, let me circle back to my lawnmower. We'll come full circle.
Okay, we're coming full circle.
My non-working lawnmower.
If there's anyone still listening.
Is anyone still listening? Let me tell you what my solution was to hire someone else to mow the yard.
Really?
Yeah.
Who'd you hire?
I don't know, some guy who left a door hanger on my door. It was like, oh, you know, which I've never appreciated before, but I was like, it was very reasonably priced and comes by once a week, and it has been like mind-blowing to me, like what a relief it was. Because to me, there was always this like, no, like I should mow my own yard. That's like, it's like a real like, you know, upkeep of the house. That's the dad's job. That's part of what you do. You're in charge of the yard.
Yeah, you take pride in the yard.
Yeah, you take pride in the yard. You cut the grass, you know, whatever. But oh my gosh, this has been such a decision because one, I don't have to deal with the headache of either repairing my lawnmower or buying a new one.
Okay.
Right. And the lawnmower I have is not like self-propelled because my old house, I didn't really need that kind of power. I could just push it. It wasn't a very big yard. New yard, much bigger. So it would take me, I don't know, just given the space of my yard versus the path my lawnmower could carve, probably take me 2.5 hours to mow the whole thing.
That's a long time.
It's a long time. It's not self-propelled. There's lots of hills. Meanwhile, I paid this guy. He comes to my house once a week. He's done in like 30 minutes because he's got one of those like go-kart lawnmower things.
Yeah, the best.
It is awesome. For sure, it's so cool looking. But it's not just that he can do it faster. It's that he's way better at it than me.
That's the thing.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not just that I save the time and don't have to deal with the lawnmower. It's that this guy does it so much faster and he's better at mowing the lawn than me. And his lawnmower is better at like, you know, his lawnmower is better.
Oh, yeah,
you know,
yeah.
He's like, I bet he's on lawnmower forums. You know?
Did you go on a lawnmower forum and try to figure out?
Not at all.
No, okay.
No.
Okay.
No, not at all.
You probably would have posted in the wrong area anyway.
Well, no. So this is the problem. I did look up YouTube videos like, oh, your lawnmower won't start after the winter. And it's like, try these things and whatever. But it'll be like, use this tool that you don't have to pull this thing out. Check this. If that's okay, do this. Then you're going to want to check the spark plug. And they're like explaining it and they look very nice and easy, but it's like, this is way more involved than I have the capacity to be. But I can't even tell you. It takes this guy 30 minutes. The whole lawn is mowed. It looks better than it would if I would have done it myself. And he does like the weed eating and like blows it all off with the leaf blower and stuff, you know? It's like the cost it's going to cost me to have this guy do this for 10 weeks, you know, for the summer or whatever is the same as it would cost to just buy a new mower. And even if I buy the new mower, it's going to take me 2 hours a week to mow the yard. And I don't even have the tools. I don't have a leaf blower. You know?
Right.
It's like, there's no reason for me to do it.
So you're telling me that it's worth not having to deal with Concrete R Us.
It is worth not having to deal with it. It's 100% not worth having a 5,600 pound slab of concrete that suddenly is, it's not level. It's 3 degrees off. And,
see, I know.
You know what I mean?
When am I going to learn, Jay? When am I going to learn?
Never, Ben.
Never.
You're never going to learn.
I will go to my grave not knowing how to pour a 12 by 12.
Exactly. You don't need to know.
But Jay, the 12 by 12 is the easiest, they say. I'm kidding. They don't say that.
What about a 1 by 1? Probably sounds about 12 times easier.
Like 14 bags for a 1 by 1?
Yeah.
Is that ratio correct?
Can't be. But here's the thing. You don't need to know how to lay concrete.
Okay. I'm gonna close with one final thought here because the entire thing that you've just described is interesting to me for a couple of reasons, especially the part about fixing your lawnmower because I have been trying to solve a Rubik's Cube the whole time I've been in quarantine.
Have you looked up how to do it?
For sure, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So like I would be surprised, and I'm maybe I'm wrong. I would be surprised if there are people out there that could just pick it up and fiddle with it until they got it.
Oh, right, like the pursuit of happiness.
I don't think that's how it works for most people. Maybe someone it does, but so I've been watching lots of videos, but I've had the exact same thing as what you just described, sort of with this idea of like, well, I don't know what the carburetor is, and I don't have that specialty tool to take it off, and where am I supposed to get the replacement spark plug? They probably don't even make those anymore. Like you're being introduced to so many unknowns that you're so unwilling to embrace like the scenario in which you understand all of those words,
right?
Which is exactly how I felt with the Rubik's Cube, where I'm like watching it and I'm sort of thinking, and maybe I've underestimated the Rubik's Cube a little bit because it seems like plenty of people know how to do it. Maybe I'm overestimating my own intelligence, another possibility. But as I'm going through it, you get to a point where it's like, it's slow and cumbersome, and you sort of have to like learn some rules and understand that like, this is what this does, and an edge piece is different from a corner piece, and the centers don't move, and like there are certain like truths about a Rubik's Cube. But then you get to the point where you've solved the top layer is all yellow, the bottom layer is all white, and then the bottom two rows are all matched.
Okay.
And then it gets hard.
Oh, okay.
And
then you mess it up.
Well, and then you potentially mess it up. But this has been the thing with me and the Rubik's Cube is you get to this point and all of a sudden you're watching and you're following along and you're able to do it, and like you mess up a couple times and have to like restart the video and go through it again. But like you get to this point where they're like, okay, now you have to learn algorithms. And it's like all of a sudden after all of these like sort of easy what would be the right way to describe it, like circumstantial based situations you may run into where it's like, oh, if the white, if your white sticker is in the top left corner, you do like a left trigger. You know, it's like, that's pretty easy to know. And the left trigger is like this, and then you've completed that move. You get to to this final part and it's like, okay, now you need to learn one of 7 different algorithms based on what the yellow configuration is on top of your cube.
Right.
And like the algorithms are not like, 1, 2, 3, move. It's like you have letters that represent each of the different faces of the cube. They can be prime or regular, which means you go counterclockwise or regular. And it's like in the moment, like when our little brother can do it, like solve a Rubik cube right before your eyes. And I'm like, are you memorizing like fur earth? Which is the easiest one to memorize.
Is that what you did?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And so literally like one of the questions I Googled was like, are people literally learning Rubik's Cube algorithms?
Right.
Like, or did I just watch a video that's the way that they teach how to do it? Because I'm sitting there like wrapping my head around it. It's the type of thing where the first time I tried it, I had to put the cube down and be like, I'm never going to do this.
Right.
Like that is too far. I'm not going to understand what a carburetor is.
Right.
Like, and that's exactly how I felt about it. And as I keep going back and picking it up over and over again, I'm like going through it. And I'm thinking about Tyler, our little brother, and I'm like, when he was like 15 and so annoying in high school, like, did he sit in his room and was he that smart? Like, did he figure it out? And I'm like,
he was watching videos and stuff.
I know.
Yeah,
of course. But even watching the videos is not easy. And so I'm like, retroactively, I feel like I did a disservice to our little brother Tyler and did not give him enough credit for what I now know to be something that feels rather complicated.
You're describing a very, my entry into the world of, breeding perfect Pokemon. So the thing, like if you think you understand like Pokemon and stats and stuff.
I don't.
Like,
not
you
even
don't.
a little.
Yeah.
I can't even name them.
Yeah, right. I mean, if you think Pokemon is as simple as, grass beats, water beats, fire beats, grass. It's just rock, paper, scissors. It's like, oh, you child. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, I remember thinking once upon a time, I was like, you know what I'm going to do this time? I'm going to go to the mart and buy all the vitamins, and I'm going to just pump my Pokemon up, and they're going to be so much better. And it was like, no, that's not it. That's like, hey, it's like, that's a good way to get like a quarter of the way there.
Hysterical.
It's like, what you're going to want to do is catch, you're going to want to go to this particular patch, you're going to want to catch Dittos until you've gotten certain ones that have these perfect stats, and then you can use those Dittos to breed those stats onto your different Pokemon, because they can breed with anything, and if they're holding this item, they'll always pass down 5 of their 6 stats. So what you want to do is roll the dice enough times that you get the 3 perfect ones onto the one you want, and then you're going to have to switch out the different Ditto and do the roll again until you get the 5 out of 6. It's just like, oh my gosh.
Right,
and that's just to get the,
And so you're sitting there wondering, like, people don't actually do this.
Right.
People don't actually do this.
People don't,
That's too far.
Right, you're like, but then you go like online, you'll see people doing like competitive battling, and they'll be like, yeah, so this is like my perfect ride-on, and he's got these stats, and it's like they clearly have maxed out the thing, and you're like, did you go through, and you're like, learn like did you go through and actually breed this thing and breed like 40 Rhyhorns until you got the perfect stats. And then you went through and did all these effort value things. And you also bred a specific move that can only be found on this Pokemon down through these lines. So it was on this, like, you did that?
Right.
To get this, for this? Like,
I know. It feels like, it's like maybe you just underestimate the level of commitment that people have put into the things that they are like that into.
Yeah.
And yeah, so.
Yeah. So the thing is, I have done this thing now. Like I have a good group of like very perfect Pokemon that have been like the first one I ever tried to do was a Weezing, and it wanted this move called Pain Split, and it was like I should have started with something way easier, but the only way to get it was to have this one particular Pokemon breed with a second Pokemon, and then you had to get that one over to Weezing, but you had to like bring it, you couldn't catch that Pokemon in the game I wanted, or it didn't learn it in that generation. Like you had to get this Pokemon in a past generation and then transfer it to your game where it happened to have the move, and then breed it with the thing, and then give it to the Wii. It was this giant puzzle.
Right. Okay. So I feel like there's some type of like word or phrase that we can apply to this kind of situation, and I feel like I'm like leaning towards some type of like iceberg analogy where it's like you understand the iceberg of Pokemon.
Right.
Like everybody only ever sees the tip, but you know what the rest of the iceberg looks like.
Right.
And
you're right.
Yeah.
It's an iceberg.
It's an iceberg.
Yes.
Iceberg phenomenons. There's got to be a thing for it.
We're getting into a good phrase.
Yeah. I'm also incredibly curious now to know what the little kernels of the listening ship might know or might have had this experience with. Like, what do you know that much more about?
Yes.
Like, where everybody thinks they know, but
you know.
But you know.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
So be sure to send any kind of feedback that you might have to popcornculturepod@gmail.com. Also, need to give a hearty little plug to our Patreon. At the beginning of the episode, we determined that host Ben is still winning.
Indeed.
Over on our Patreon page, patreon.com/popcornculture, you can vote for who is the one true host of the show. We have 3 categories: no host, J host, or Ben host.
Yes. And let me just say, I feel like we've been doing this or that. We've been doing a bunch of like Instagram meme things that people can like do. We did a this or that, and we put up things like, Anna or Elsa or Iron Man or Cap, and we slipped in J host and Ben host.
So slipped right in.
Just slipped right in. Oh, maybe we'll see. Man, people, if there was one thing people refused to vote on, it was J host or Ben host.
It's so true.
Everyone would circle both, and I was like, oh, you sly dogs.
I loved it. People were, I had a couple people were like, nice try, guys. And I was like, that's so perfect. You saw straight through us.
Saw straight through us. Trying to sneak it through there.
But as long as we're talking about the Patreon, we're also going to be adding a new perk to it, still at that same $5 level. So that's the only level we have over there. But we're going to have a short episode called After the Final Pop.
Oh, yeah.
Where we are going to basically have a little bit of bonus extra content. So if you are a patron, you will have a specific place that you can ask questions. And that's what we're going to be discussing in that little short episode.
We'll just answer patron questions in After the Final Pop, which will be posted exclusively on Patreon.
Nice. Way to,
go.
You really summed that up nicely.
Thank you.
Otherwise, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of The Pop. Until next time.
Pop, pop.